Hey everyone, Will here. This is going to be the last one since this will give a more complete picture of how to use a spreadsheet as it pertains to a big farm where there's actually character shards to farm. Since the first one I showed, there wasn't really anything to farm. I had already finished the team, the 7 stars. So I picked SLKR for this one because it doesn't have a lot of nested requirements like JMLS or the other GLs. So that's what I'm going to use. So what we did is we've got all of the required tunes and relics here, and then additionally we have SLKR himself to relic 7. Obviously you want to give him the relic 8, but he's usable at 7. And for purposes of farming, this is sufficient since we just basically want to include the gear for himself so we don't overlook that. So there are a few tunes that I don't have farmed up for this. I don't have Sith Trooper and a few others like Executioner. So I do have them in the spreadsheet, which I prepared in advance. Basically, you've got the characters, and then the one ship that I'm still missing we have here, and this probably needs to be updated. Yep. So we're going to include that. So the longest normal farm is going to be obviously command shuttle. It's not a big surprise that the ship is the bottleneck there, so we'll come back to that. And then Cantina farm, there's 3 tunes we need out of there, so we just want to keep an eye on how many days it's going to take to farm those, since that will take away from signal data. So let's start going down the list. We're not going to worry about CCBs. You're pretty much always going to get plenty of those. Arguably bronzium wirings too. I mean, we can put those in there just for completeness, but I tend to use as much excess salvage materials as possible, so I'm not bottlenecked on that. So it's generally not an issue for me. Now you notice there's no erodiums here. It's just because I happen to have a surplus of erodiums, but if you needed those, obviously you're going to want to put those in. Then we need 30s and biddles. And then of course the signal data. So we punch that in. And I think this is probably where this spreadsheet helps the most, just because you need a shitload of gear to do any of these GL farms, and you can very easily get one requirement done only to run into another that you forgot about, like for example command shuttle. So I think this is where the big advantage is. We're just going to keep an eye on the Carbanis. We need, well, a lot. So we'll come back to that. Stun cuffs I'm not going to worry about. You get plenty of those from the weekly challenges, so that's not something we're going to farm. Same with the stun guns for that matter. The hollows we are going to keep track of. We do get those passively in the background, but we may need to farm some more of those. The Mark IV comm leaks, it's one of those things you get passively, but we are going to want to speed that up to some degree. Maybe not the whole thing, but we'll just toss it in there since it does show up in the shard shop, so we can farm for that. So Mark IV salvage, normally, if it's 20 or less, I don't worry about it. But you get these from so many different game modes, and in the grand scheme of things, for how long this farm's going to take, you can safely ignore 139, and you're probably not going to come up short there. Back to gels, we might need those. I would prefer to farm them on normal energy if I can, because you can get cybernetics off the same node. If we need to, we can shift that over to shard shop, so we'll just kind of keep that in the back of our head. Mark 5 droid cores, you can get those out of the guild store, so we're going to pass on that. The Mark 5 med packs, 191's not too much, but we're basically just going to keep that in the back of our head because that might be something we need to farm out of the shard shop. Mark 5 detonators, again, guild store. This will probably be your primary focus in the guild store just because we do need a lot of them. And I mean, we see them here and there as game rewards, but not too often. Same with the Mark 6 droid collars. So kind of already I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, and you can get back to gels out of the guild store, but because the back to gels are on a good node and you can get them out of the shard shop, our primary focus For the guild store is going to be the Mark 5 detonators, droid cars, and the Mark 6 droid cars to a much smaller degree, which you'd want to do last because you may get enough passively that you don't need to farm anything. As far as shard shop goes, we do want the Mark 6 med packs in there, so we are going to add that to our list. And then also Mark 6 syringes, you're going to get plenty of those from the weekly challenges, pass. Mark 7 furnaces, we don't need that many of them, so that's generally not something we have to worry about. Syringes, I'll throw it on there. We don't need that many, but why not? And then shock rods, we need a mountain of those, so we're going to toss that in there. The shield generators, that one's kind of a tough one. I think we'll pass for now, but it's probably, if we're able to get the timeline whittled down quite a bit, that might be something we need to add to the shard shop. Mark 7 detonators, we only need 38. Meh. Mark 7 scanners. So what actually might make the most sense, and this may not make your guildmates happy, but you might want to just request donors for that, because you only need 2. You only get 2 per when you request them for donations, but we only need 35. So we can either do that, or we can use guild store currency. We don't need that many, so it's not a big requirement there. The 207 Nubian techs, we are going to farm out of the shard shop. And Mark 8 biotech implants, I believe I'm almost positive we get those from the weeklies too. I'm not sure. Let's check that real quick. Because that's generally not been a requirement that I've run into. Nope, not in there. Okay, we get the Mark 8 biotech implants. Yeah, so we're not getting that out of the challenges, so that's probably something we're going to need to farm. So that we can add to the shard shop, since we already have a lot of pressure on the guild store, so we're not going to put any more pressure on that. So we need the Mark 8 biotech implants. I'm not sure which one it is, but I'll just commandeer this one for now. Tech. And then let's see, how many do we need? 164. We need 978 Mark 8 biotech implants. We'll come back to that, because that's quite a bit, but we also get those in the weekly challenges, so it may not be an issue. 639 scanners, we're definitely going to toss in the shard shop list. 147 Mark 9 biotech implant salvages. So you notice I kind of just overwrote that here for the Mark 8 biotech implant components, but we only need 147, and I do see that as rewards in a fair amount of game modes. It's one of those things where it can be a very low priority for the shard shop, maybe not an active one, but again, something we want to keep in the back of our minds. Mark 9 Fabitechs, we get that out of the weekly challenges, not an issue. Battle computers, I don't think Cairo Comps is going to be a blocker for us, and the reason being is that 575 is honestly not that much if we're spending all of our GAC currency on it, because we're getting 167 per month anyways. So when you think about it, that's 3 months and change, and there's no way this is going to be done in 3 months and change. So it's not going to be a bottleneck. Mark 10 HoloLens, I mean 51 is just not that much. So the armor plating, the 9A normal node is not terrible. You could farm it there, but I have a feeling we are going to have plenty of pressure on normal energy, so we're going to get that out of the shard shop. Let's see, and then 77 bayonets, 41 cybernetics. Those we do need to farm. You actually could get the cybernetics out of the shard shop, but I also think we're going to have plenty of pressure there, and it is a good node. It'll also help us get some back to gels. So those are all good things. So we can punch in the 150 data pads, and then we're just kind of going down the list here. And I guess like this kind of looks like a lot, but I mean, when you think about the fact that GL is just a very long farm, it's not that surprising. This is why it's important to team build before you get carried away with GL farms. Or at least take your time. So you have teams that you can use before you get this. So 218, 223 detonators. And the visors we also will get out of the shard shop. It's not worth farming those off of a node. 180 syringes. 80 implants. And then so, you know, it takes about like 10 minutes. Doesn't take that long. And then you have it set up for the next 5, well, in this case, it's probably going to be 5 or 6 months. So it's not too much work in the grand scheme of things. So we can get rid of that. We are not pressured on Mark 6 Carbonis. We are also not going to farm this. I'll keep that in there. I don't want to farm the cybernetics out of the shard shop, but we could. It is an option, so that's something we want to consider. The Bactigels, I don't think we're going to need that, but I'm going to keep that for now. Carbonis, how many did we need? We need 2,500, so let's keep that in there just in case. Same with the hulls. We don't need the Mark 6 biotech salvage. And then same as before, I'm just going to slash and burn on stuff I don't need. Chromiums and erodiums we're totally fine on. And we don't actually need this asterisk because it's not relevant since we got rid of erodiums. So as usual, broke a bunch of formulas, need to fix them. But hopefully that's not anything new at this point. And then we can start getting to the fun part. We can actually start reducing this. And as usual, we want to dial this in. 570? No. Okay, this is going to be like 562. Okay, close enough to start. So right now, that's more than a year away. That's probably not actually going to happen. Biggest things to reduce, bronzium wirings. So with the amount of bronziums that I get from salvaging various materials, I think we can safely say that this actually probably won't be a bottleneck. I added it to the spreadsheet by request, but I mean, in a 5 or 6 month timeline, you are going to generate a lot of bronzium wirings from just salvaging various gear that you're buying out of the shipments. So I'm just honestly going to delete this because I don't think it's realistic, nor do I think it's relevant. It's not something we need to focus on. And then we're getting to about 5, 6 months here. Now, that is more realistic. It's one of those things, well, maybe you could split diff because that almost seems a little on the low side, but that's fine. We'll run with it for now. But perhaps just to be conservative, let's say we need 800. Let's say we're going to get 250. Even that's probably high. We'll go with 150. Because it really is just, you're trying to predict something that's very hard to predict. But if you're buying all the gears you should out of shipments 3 times a day, and you're getting stuff from challenges, that's excess that you don't need. I don't think bronzium wiring is going to be your big holdup. So we're good there. At a glance, obviously, you know, this is getting a little closer. This is slightly less than a year. I still don't think that's realistic, but, you know, we're just going to go with it for now. Electrium conductors are one of those things where if you had crystal income to support it, this is something you could buy. They're kind of expensive, so I mean, it's not the first thing I would look, but that is something we could consider. We've got 9 days for the cybernetics, so, you know, let's just toss that in there, and we can get rid of this. I would prefer to farm it again, but, you know, we don't always get what we want. From there, a few things I do want to check on is, you know, first of all, are we going to need any carbonis? No. We're getting close to 4,000 carbonis over the course of this farm, so that's not an issue. Mark 3 hollows, yeah, we're fine. We need 420. 572 is what we're going to accumulate, so that's not an issue. In the Mark 8 biotechs, we're getting over 2,000, and we only needed 978. So that's generally not an issue. So the main thing we want to look at here, and let's get rid of the keypads just to do a little more cleanup, as well as the scanners. And we can get rid of the Mark 8 biotech salvage because we just saw that we're not going to have to farm that, so we can pass on that. So injectors are a big one. We need a lot of those, but over the course of, a minimum of 5-6 months, which probably longer than that, we can safely say that we are going to get plenty of injectors from Conquest. If not, then, well, that's something we need to fix with Conquest, because we should be getting plenty of injectors from that, as well as, CT1s for assault battles. So what we can do, and why is this actually? I guess it's just because, because you're passively gain 10 per month, so, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was just wondering why that was 0, but it's because we are getting those in the background. So the injector cells, I suppose, would be the big one. Of a certain type of injector. I mean, you will get it in the loot boxes, but we don't know which one that's going to be. But you can guarantee that you can get 30 injectors of one type per conquest. So if we're doing this over 5 months, then we know we can get 30 times 5, so we can get 150. It would be 180 if we're at 6 months, though. And looking at this, our big bottleneck is normal energy. So I think 180 days, that's 6 months. Also, we need to farm in Cantina. That's going to take longer as well. So I think we can safely say that we're going to be doing 6 conquests, which means we can get 180 injector cells from conquest. Then we obviously need to revise this. Since that cut 60 days right there off of our normal energy timeline, I do want to check. We'll still get on the Mark 8 biotechs, hollows, and carbs. We probably will be for the duration of the farm, so that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the Mark 3 hollows from the shard shop. I don't think we're going to need them. Carbonis, I think it's safe to say at this point it's not going to be an issue. Same with the biotech salvage. And then, of course, we broke the ref, or broke the formula. Get rid of that. Let's just leave. I'm surprised that still works. So from here, we do need to pay attention to shard shop because we are putting a decent amount of pressure on the shard shop. And if you want, what we could do. So the other big way we can shorten this timeline rather significantly is with the Mark IV back to gels, because the bayonets, it's such a good node. I just don't want to get that out of the shard shop. I could, I don't want to. The shark pods, there's not much you can do there, and they're expensive as hell with crystals. So with the amount that we need, you're just going to be farming it for 106 days. There's not much you can do about that. But what we can do is with a Mark IV back to gels, especially since I do see them in the shard shop a fair amount. So we need 364 Mark IV back to gels. So we do that, move that to the shard shop, and we get rid of that. We are down to probably going to be like 280. Yeah, we're down to 280 days from 380 with normal energy. So we're looking pretty good. This does put more pressure on the shard shop, though. So not even 3x, not even spending 1,200 fleet currency a day is going to get us enough for shard shop currency. Now, one thing I did add here is you can predict what shard shop currency you're going to get from assault battles per month. I think on average I get about 2,000 per month. So we can take that into account. And yeah, that is being included. So we're still a little on the short side. So this is kind of one of the caveats is with the amount of pressure we're putting on the shard shop, we are going to be using all of our fleet currency, especially basically to get this farm done in the amount of time that we're predicting. This is wrong because it's 9/11, so we're at about 9.3 months right now. Now, the ways that we can shorten this is from here is really the bronzium wirings and the electrium conductors. But it's just, they're so expensive to buy. I don't think we can do anything about that. I do think we can do something about the bronzium wirings because, I'm just really convinced that we're going to get plenty of them in that time frame. If you don't believe that you would be able to get that many in that time frame, then obviously you're going to want to adjust your expectations. So that gets us to 240. And as usual, yeah, we're looking good. Now notice actually the Mark III hollows, we are whittled down a little bit under what we need. So now we're kind of hitting diminishing returns on normal energy because now we actually have like 6 days allotted for farming the Mark III hollows off light side 9F. So I don't think we can do anything more with normal energy. As it is, I think this is kind of a bit on the aggressive side. So, and what I mean by that is we are putting a lot of pressure on the shard shop. Same with the guild store, because you remember that the Mark V detonators, as well as the Mark V and 6 droid collars, we need quite a bit of those. And that's not going to happen overnight. So I don't think we can reduce any more as far as this bottleneck goes. And it's just as well that this is the bottleneck, because we're actually going to get quite a lot of gear pieces from Conquest, a lot more than 100. That's based on about a 45-day timeline. And that was pretty conservative too. So this 202 is actually going to be reduced down even further. So if anything, this means that, say you think you can get 500 G12 gear in that time frame, we're looking at only 166 days to farm what we need for fleet. So that means spending, don't bother spending any Conquest currency on G12 gear. It also means that if we wanted to farm a second node out of fleet, it probably wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, see, you say you wanted to farm both Shock and, Anthy's Nest, you can do so, and it's not even going to impact your farm. It will not slow it down. So that's something to keep in mind there. Now, the 180 days, this seems good, but it's something I want to also take into account. These 3 farms we need to do. So I'm going to sum those. Now, by the way, I created this in advance, but basically this is just calculating off the Cantina energy. I don't have it in the template. I just did it manually. Because I guess I could put it in the template, but the problem is it's based on how much Cantina energy it costs per node hit. So there's a little bit of variability there. So it's going to take us 110 days to farm Cantinas. So this normally would be a bottleneck, but we can adjust that with Cantina refreshes. 1's not going to do it. Yeah, looks like 2's going to do it. And that's really not that much as far as refreshes goes. 2 Cantina refreshes a week is pretty light on the requirements. So that's pretty much it. So we've got a pretty big laundry list of shard shops, so we're going to be busy there. And we're also going to be busy buying what we need at our guild store. But as far as everything else we need, we have enough Mark 8 biotechs, almost enough Mark 3 hulls. You'll probably get enough out of shipments. Actually, you won't even need to farm it, so that's probably 6 days you can save there. And we're good on Carbonis. We needed 2,500, so we're still a little bit ahead of what we need. And as far as this being in red, so even cashing in all of our fleet currency, say you're getting 1,600 a day, you're going to be a little bit short. And that's taking into account 2,000 that you generate from the assault battles if you get shards that you don't already need. The reason I'm not worried about this, though, is that there's more shard shop currency you get per month from events and also, more importantly, raids. If you already have 7-star Kenobi, 7-star Trey, etc., then you're not going to have to worry about this. You'll be just fine. So that's pretty much it. So what we did is we took a template, we duplicated it, and we went through a pretty massive farm. And keep in mind, this includes SLKR himself. 7, not 8, but still. And our timeline once we actually got everything dialed in, originally it was 380 days, which is a little bit more than a year. And we were able to get that whittled down to 240, which is 8 months. And not only that, but we are also able to identify in the fleet that we can add an additional firm for fleet without impacting the overall timeline of this firm, which I would call a pretty big efficiency win. So hopefully that kind of helps cement how to use this spreadsheet, because I think this is pretty comprehensive. And one thing I didn't mention, but I probably should, is the longest normal firm with command shuttle is 175 days. We can see that we're not bottlenecked there because it's going to take us longer than 175 days to finish getting all of the gear. So we don't need to spend any refreshes on command shuttle. And we'll obviously finish all the actual characters we need well before we run into any issues there. So hopefully that was helpful. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the comments section. Thanks for watching.